Gentlemen, we're back again. Another week of great wrestling in the books. And there were some fireworks this past week. Obviously in the Big Ten, Gable made his reemergence, and wow, we'll get to that later. There were some Big Ten versus ACC wrestling going on as well. There was also ACC Big 12, where the NC State crew welcomed their old regime back to Raleigh. So that was really awesome
Did
as
you see
well.
that sweater that Timmy McCall was wearing?
I did. I saw
That sweater game
pictures.
was on point.
I saw
Strong
pictures.
sweater game.
It was honestly really awesome to see those guys get welcomed back into Raleigh. I mean, obviously they were going to welcome those guys back. They left a lasting impact on that entire program, but like just seeing that and seeing how Pat's coaching tree, it's like you're seeing it like right in front of you, right? Like it's
Yeah.
literally right across the mat from you, right? And um we already know what kind of impact he's having, that Adam Hall's having at UVU. I think we talk about it literally every show where you're seeing something else cool that Adam has put together. Like, and every week you are finding out just how, I mean, obviously you can look at the schedule and you can see who they have, but you're seeing every week the impact that he's already having with how meticulous they put that schedule together, right? They bought Oklahoma State in. They're, handing out free t-shirts to the first 500. Then they go back to
He didn't
Raleigh.
give
So
me one though, Adam.
I did. I
Still waiting
asked
on
I
my
asked
shirt.
Adam for it. I sent him a text. I was like, listen, I'll pay for it. I don't care. Like, I just want one of these shirts. And
It's a sweet
got
shirt.
crickets from Adam Hall. So I'm kind of upset. I might have
Wow.
to reach out to Timmy. I think Timmy might be the guy to make this happen and make this work. If I can get to Timmy, maybe I'll get four of them and we'll all wear them on the show at the same time.
Can you see
Um
if we can get a sweater too?
I I mean if they have some sweaters, if they got some sweaters. I thought you were a vest guy though.
Yeah.
What
So
I
Robbie's a,
am. Look,
yeah.
a sweater with a Wolverine on it that would be awesome.
You must have
Just,
been
I
a
mean,
big Old Navy tech vest guy back in the day. That
I
must
still
have
have
been
like six of them. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that sounds about
Because
right.
they match on my cargo pants.
I was just gonna say with
I need
with the
lots of
zippers,
pockets.
with the
Yeah.
So
zippers,
many pockets.
they're pants
Oh
that go to
man.
So many
shorts.
pockets. What's
In
crazy though, so I'm in my real life, outside the wrestling bubble, I'm a high school teacher, which that's a whole experience in itself. But that shit's making a comeback. I saw kids with like baggy cargo pants on the other day, and I was like, whoa, this makes me feel really old because
Is
I have
that a
like a 20-year
Jenko
cycle.
patch on your
That's
on
what I'm
your
saying. There was a kid with some Jenkos on, and I was very excited. It's like, man, I
I
hope you have
love
some
it.
soap shoes and some Heelys,
Heck
do some
yeah.
grinds outside.
I
Soon
really
enough,
hope
we'll
that there's
have
a
carpenter pants back. We'll just be
I,
throwing nails in our pockets
I
and
really hope
carrying
that there
hammers
is a
around.
part of the people that watch this show that understand this entire conversation, because if not, I don't apologize for any of these references that you children
No.
do not know about. But you know who's gonna know? Slap the Matt's gonna know, and he's gonna
Yeah.
make comment about it because he always does. He comments on everything, and I love it.
And the
Um,
kids are going to know soon enough anyway because it's cyclical. That's how
yeah,
fashion works.
it's
Yeah.
coming back. It is certainly coming back. So don't worry. All my old baggy jeans and oversized jerseys are still at my parents' house. So if I need to dig them out when I go back to Pennsylvania for Christmas, I will do that. But no, the wrestling has been amazing, and I want to start with that Rutgers VT duel, another duel in an awesome different venue. And I tuned in to watch it. I know some of you guys were having a little bit of trouble to getting it onto your computers and TVs and stuff. I
Now
know
look,
Austin and Robbie, you guys were talking about that.
let me yell at the ACC for a minute because I've been on this
Please.
soapbox for the last couple years trying to help people out with this because it's worked flawlessly for me. And I've walked people through getting logged in and making sure that they can get all the ACC network and ACC network extra stuff. And damn sure, if I don't tune in on Friday to watch the Moss duel, and it won't work. Now, Claunch coming in through with the clutch, with the login, got in there the end of the 125 match. So caught back up on Eddie, good to go. But the point remains, get your shit together, ACC. I know where your offices are. I'll go talk to somebody if I have to.
Yes, we need that.
Yeah, I tuned in. I was working out when it started, so I tuned in. I think it was right around 141 is where I started watching. But very impressed by the venue. Two, very impressed by Wolak. That man is a monster. That bow and arrow was disgusting. And I felt for Jackson Turley. I'm like, Jackson Turley, you're coming back with one thing in mind, is to win everything. And you're not getting treated very kindly right now. And I feel bad for you. But like, that was a hell of a match. I was very impressed by him. Robbie, I want to hear your take on the VT side of things, as they were supremely dominant in that match.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it was super lopsided. McGonigal didn't go. My understanding is a little dinged up in practice, and they weren't going to throw him against Jobber if he wasn't full strength. So they pulled out a guy that nobody even knew was on the roster. It was a transfer from King, David Medina, and he didn't do super good. Got teched pretty early, I think in the second, towards the end of the second. But if I walked into a D1 room after not having wrestled for a few years, probably wouldn't do so great against Dylan Chopper, and I have 100 pounds on him. So there's that.
Would you make it to the second?
That's a good
Like
question.
over or under, are you going to get past that level or what?
Do I have a stick, or am I just in a singlet? Because if I'm just in a singlet, it's going to be a toss up.
You have a chair and a whip like a lion tamer.
Oh no, I'll go 7. I'll go 7.
Even here's the thing.
Enough experience with cattle and cattle prods in my life. I can keep things at a distance.
Do you think that you get washed out because cardio is terrible, or because he would have that many points and end it in the second if it was a true wrestling match? That's what I'm thinking. What fails first, your lungs or the scoreboard from all the points he puts up?
That chair is going to get
Even
real
when
heavy
I was
real
in my
fast.
best shape, I was not in D1 7-minute shape, and that was pointed out to me many times. So yeah, probably more of the cardio than. I mean, 2 of my kids weigh more than 133 pounds, and they can't take me down. So at the same time, so I'm pretty sure I could hold off for a little bit.
Yeah, that's dad strength though. That is dad strength.
Yeah, it's really the running away from him that's gonna be more complicated.
The man that people can't run away from is Mr. Hippolito, and he's showing to be an absolute force so far, with some very crazy, like, wild wrestling. I mean,
They got Shakira hips. They're wild.
It's awkward. It's really weird. It's like as if you thought that you didn't have to put up with shenanigans because Bryce Antonian was gone. He has a long lost cousin who knows a lot about jujitsu that they're now throwing into the lineup in that place, and he looks masterful.
What's so crazy is, like, you see him step in like in positions you wouldn't put your hips in normally, and there's separation, but somehow he still gets like wild leverage with his hips, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, they shouldn't be able to have that angle when there's a foot between your hips like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, thoroughly impressed
Bonkers.
by Hippolito.
Now, don't act like I haven't been telling you guys. He's a wild man.
You have. I just love that hip is in his name. Like, you should know what you're getting into. It's just these hips aren't going to lie, and they're going to tell you how bad you are. You're real quick. So, no, he's awesome, man. He's been as advertised by you primarily. I haven't heard the name Hippolito come out of anyone else's mouth before yours this season.
Yeah.
Then people are idiots, and I'm the smartest man alive.
Yeah, you called your
shot.
And
with that, we're done this week. No.
Honestly, here's the thing, right? Is I feel like if people paid attention to the things that are said on this show that are not said on others, you would know, one, that Hippolito is the real deal because he was talked about last year when he was in the lineup. That Sergio Lemley, before he beat Real Woods, was the real deal. And for me, it would be with Lucas Bird being a true contender, which people are finally starting to say. So
Harry Potter's got some skills.
Thank you. So that's the thing is, like, and yes, I am patting us on the back, but if you watch other shows, you will notice that we are taking notice of other guys that don't normally get the pub, right? It's not like they're on small schools. I mean, VT, Illinois, and Michigan, it's not like they're not in the spotlight, especially Michigan, right? People are watching Michigan, but they didn't know how good Sergio Lemley was until he beat Real Woods. And just like Robbie is saying now with Hippolito, Kevin was already there. Like, I told you so. Like, I'm not surprised, right? Like it was, it
So
was
wait till
coming.
Trumble beats Gable this year. They're really gonna have a big "I told you so" moment.
Jesus.
I always like the
let's
idea that
clip that.
yeah, we, we need to just start recording bad takes and then like saving them and then just like re-releasing them as if it was part of the show.
Let us know when we have one. Let us know when we have one. Because I'm telling you right now, so far we're on a pretty damn good track. And it's not like I'm not like taking credit for Lucas Bray. I mean, he came in ranked third in the country. However, most probably didn't think that he was a serious contender. They thought that he would probably end up in the same position as his ranking, which can still very much so happen. But they
He
didn't
put it
expect him
on
to
Ethan Oakley this weekend.
exactly like he's looked very good. And so is Hippolito with having another year of just practice under his belt. You know, Lemley did otherworldly things last year that people didn't see coming unless your name was Kevin Clunch. So hopefully people are starting to pay attention when we talk about guys. It's for a reason. We see some things, and yes, I'm patting us on the back for sure.
Someone needs to do it.
Yeah.
Listen, somebody needs to pay attention, and I appreciate the people that already are. Anyway, the other match that I thought was super interesting was the heavyweight match that went into overtime. And I feel like, man, it was close. And it not saying that like most matches that go to overtime aren't close, but they were evenly matched until that last, what was it, the little elbow duck that Slavakuski hit. And if you watch, like he's like kind of shucking and driving underneath there, and then he hits it and he goes. But that match was also really, really good. Both guys wrestled very well during that entire match. I was really impressed in that final bout.
Yeah, I mean, from the VT side, Jimmy's just got to pull the trigger more. He's in, creating great angles. He just needs to go for it. But then, I mean, you have Hunter Katka, who's around a 12 guy last year, just went out to the Keystone Classic and tech falled and pinned his way through. So, you know, what are we going to do there? Is it going to be Mullen? Is it going to be Katka? It's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be a late year decision of who they're actually going with.
Yeah. On the other side for VT, tell you what, it was very surprising to see
EJ.
yeah, to see how he
Yeah.
wrestled. It not very good.
Mm-mm.
He's not looking good. What do you think is going on there?
I really don't know. Watching him warm up before the Mizzou duel, and he didn't look good there either. He looked great in his warm up. Physically, probably in the best shape I've ever seen him. He's lost that little bit of baby fat that he still had.
Mm-hmm.
Someday I'll do that. I'm 40. Someday though, I'll get there. So I don't know. He didn't wrestle like himself. He's kind of unorthodox and relies on some counters, but he didn't create any of his own offense in either of those matches. Didn't really even seem to try a whole lot, which is kind of concerning because you have to get something moving. You can't just wait for things to happen. And he doesn't seem to be doing that yet. So I'm hopeful, they're not overreacting about it. I talked to Tony about it. I talked to Jared about it. And, basically it was, he's going to show up when he's ready to show up, and we're not concerned about it. They're happy with where he's progressing through workouts, and, he'll get there when he gets there. So
You feel like it's finally like a growing pains thing, right? Like you come in last year and there's literally nothing to lose, and you can be super offensive and go up top and throw guys and hit inside trips, and there's no sort of pressure. Now this year, everybody knows who you are. You're a starter you're a starter because you need to be a starter, instead of I think what you came in last year because of an injury or something like that. Right? Like now you're a true starter and people know who the hell you are, and you're expected to perform, and you're also probably working new things in the room
Mhm.
that you're trying to force into your style so that by the time March comes around, it's a seamless process. Like you have all the tools in your arsenal. That's what I felt like watching him, where he's super tentative because there's all this new stuff happening in my head. And now I'm starting to forget my true offense. And now I'm just kind of sitting back and I'm waiting and I'm being more patient because I feel like I need to be more patient as a college wrestler because you see guys do that all the time where they're not forcing things and they're just trying to let the match come to them, but I feel like he needs to force it. He needs to be forceful. He needs to go forward. He needs to let his offense fly because trying to maybe shoehorn a couple of the new things into your arsenal out on the mat, you got to just let them come to you.
Yeah,
So that's what I thought.
it feels like he's kind of approached the matches. Colton Hawks is good, and I'm not going to say he's not. He's not, you know, 8-2 win over TJ better. At least I would figure it'd at least be closer than that. He has no offensive points this year. It was a 8-2 loss to Hawks and a 5-1 loss to the backup for Rutgers, Cartagena Walsh, not even the
Well,
starter.
it,
So
it's
like,
it's weird because he almost looks like conservatively aggressive. Like
yeah, and
he'll explode into these tie-ups, but then he won't do anything with it.
it feels like it feels like a late Saturday or late Friday night match at NCAA's where you're just trying to only have to do what you need to do to get the win and conserve
Mm-hmm.
that energy for the next one instead of actually just pouring it in there and going after it. It doesn't, like you said, there's not any pop like to finish anything. Like he'll get to a position, but he doesn't fight through it.
Mm.
And so like looking back through his scores last year, there's lots of double digits, there's lots of pins. Like he's super explosive when he goes. He's also very, has a strong defense. So he can't just rely on that. He has to use that offense if he's going to get anything done. And that's, what the matches that he won were generally, higher offensive output from him. He didn't have a lot of super close, tight matches. The ones that were defensive on both sides, and there wasn't a lot of point scored.
Mm.
So he's going to have to pick up the pace. And I think they're going to CKLV, right? I think so.
I don't know.
But they have Oklahoma State before that or after that in the next couple of weeks. Let me look at my schedule. So he's got a chance to make a statement there, if nothing else. So we'll see. He's gonna have to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got plot on the 19th. So
That's
not
not somebody you really want to see when you're not feeling your most offensive.
Mhm.
when you lost 5-1 to the Rutgers backup, I don't think Dustin Plot is the highest on your to-do list right now. So I mean it's a good place for him to make a statement that hasn't dropped off though.
Correct. I want to go to the other match that we were talking about with UNC and Illinois. First, how are we feeling about these UNC two pieces? Go ahead, Robbie. Shake your fist at it.
You know, I love the idea of removing a barrier from people getting into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're fantastic at a youth level. I mean, when I coached high school, two schools that I coached at, we had a fight short combo. Not the spandex short, which
Yeah.
how much more are we accomplishing if we're doing spandex shorts and a spandex top? It's not a whole lot different than just a singlet. But with the fight shorts, at least it eliminates kind of some of that barrier, especially for the prepubescent kids and get the boys going through puberty. It's kind of a tough spot to be out there and not a whole lot covering you up. So I definitely see the value in it. I don't necessarily like it at the college level, but Jason Borelli made a great point earlier when he was talking about it that the colleges are going to serve as kind of the overall example of what we should be doing. And if they see the college guys wearing this, maybe it helps propel a couple more kids into it. And if that eliminates that barrier, then that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think across any sport, I agree with Borelli completely. I think across any sport, the college level serves as a trendsetter up and down. So you've seen in football where, guys are wearing certain visors or certain cleats or whatever else. And or that weird trend where everybody wanted to have two mouthpieces attached to their helmet.
Yeah.
But
Or the
like
ski mask phase. That was weird
it
too.
started, I feel like it's that entire thing started in college and it migrates, both, north and south, right? Like there's a number of guys you see in the pros that now do it. And then there's a number of guys in high school that you also see that do it too. Right. So like I think it's spot on where if a two piece is going to have maybe a bit more of a resurgence, because for a while it was all the talk. Everyone was using two piece. Literally, my first day at Flow Wrestling, we talked about changing who's number one from a from a regular singlet to a two piece, and everybody's yelling at each other and arguing, and I'm like, is this my new job? It was the weirdest thing ever, but like ultimately they switched to that and they've never gone back. You've seen guys over the years push the envelope with that, whether they're, going crop top or forget ditching the shorts and just going compression shorts and compression top, whatever else. But overall, they seem pretty comfortable in it. But I think that went by the wayside for a while outside of like maybe claw wrestling with, you saw in the match with Jo and Andonian, or who's number one. You see it in maybe a couple other places, but the popularity has died down. I honestly feel like if you started to see more college teams, I know Arizona State, they also have a two piece that we've seen them wear.
Mizzou uses them quite a bit.
Yeah,
Didn't Missouri
Mizzou,
just wear one against Illinois?
Yep.
yeah. So like I think it's dope. And I think honestly, didn't UNC wear two of them on, what was that,
Two
on
different
Monday?
ones, yeah.
Two different ones.
Yeah, they had two different
Yeah.
ones, one against Greensboro and one against
And they were honestly, I mean, it's hard to not like everything that UNC does when it comes to uniforms. It's really hard to mess that up. It really truly is really hard to mess up that color scheme and anything that they do. Like just keep it in that vicinity and you'll be fine. Even though I love the black singlet that they aren't allowed to wear. But like it's really hard to mess up those colors, to be completely honest. But like I thought it was awesome that they wore it. I hope that they continue to bring it into their arsenal of different uniforms and things like that. I hope other teams start to do it as well. But I agree with Borelli. I think that's the barometer, right? Oh, that's really cool. I want to wear something like that too as a high school kid, and that I think that will be kind of the trendsetter.
Well, I'm gonna go
I think
old man on this, but I'm gonna go a different version of the old man on this. Like I'm the old man that's too old to argue about this. I don't care. Is it sanctioned? Is it cool? Do some people like it? Some people don't like it. That's like anything, So I thought they looked cool. I think it's great that teams have options. You know what I do in NCAA football or NBA 2K? I change the uniforms every time because it's fun.
Yeah.
So, let them have fun with it. Anybody who's complaining about this either way that passionately must be living a pretty awesome life.
That's fair.
Austin, have we seen anybody wear this in the EIWA? I don't know if there's any two-piece uniforms in the EIWA.
They don't have bow ties, so they can't wear them in the Ivy League.
They don't match penny loafers, apparently.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Can you make one with a boat with sailboats on it, or a belt with sailboats on it? Like,
or a cummerbund? Do they have cummerbunds?
With the
this
khakis,
is so
yeah.
unnecessary, but it's so great.
No, I mean, I think Lehigh has a set, but I don't know if they've worn it in competition. I could be making that up, but yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, I haven't seen anyone wear them. But I mean, personally, I didn't like them. I just don't. I'm just used to a singlet, and that's just how I was. But I'm like Kevin said, I'm an old man. I don't really care. Whatever makes them wrestle good, exciting match, go for it. Whatever.
Yeah, I love the idea for the youth. Like for seeing
Yeah.
it at youth tournaments is fantastic. But generally when you think of it, you think of it as, a kid who doesn't necessarily want to show off their body because they're not comfortable with it yet. You don't think about that with college wrestlers. They're
It is interesting.
wear as little clothing as possible because, I would too if I still looked like that.
It is interesting though, like what becomes cool based on the environment, right? Like I remember wrestling in high school and we'd go to some extra practices in Michigan's room, like, back in the day, in the springtime, and you'd see these awesome matches with, Ryan Torella and Ryan Bertine battling each other. They're wearing Michigan, t-shirts and then like spandex shorts. So then what was cool? Wearing spandex short to wrestling practice, right? That's
T-shirt,
what
yeah.
we started doing,
And
We were
tucking
like,
your
that's
shirt
what,
into them.
Yeah.
and we were like, that's cool. So, to each his own. Some people are motivated in different ways, and yeah, that's what we immediately started doing because that's what the cool kids were doing. So
Downside of that is there's a lot of ass sweat involved in that, especially for the upper weights. So I don't recommend it for upper weights.
like stay below that 165 rank,
Yeah, some of us outgrew that in fourth grade, Kevin. So
Hey, listen, wrestlers are trendsetters. No matter how much basketball wants to steal the pants tucked into the socks, it started on this side of the world. Don't
shenanigans.
ever try that. But over to the match, and obviously UNC, they wrestled Greensboro and beat up on them. But then Illinois took the match from North Carolina, and as you said, Lucas Bird beat up on Ethan Oakley, which from the standpoint of watching Bird against Bailey and seeing how it was a 1 point match, seeing him open up against a ranked guy and scoring 9 points, getting a major was like, okay, I think maybe that was a cautious match against Nasir Bailey because he is, returning All-American. He's opening up, right? He's gonna have to open up in order to beat all of these guys. He's not gonna be able to beat everybody 1-0. So good for Bird. I love that he was able to open up and score a ton of points. Because that's what's going to be necessary later on in the season. But overall, I mean, very good duel. And Illinois, what was it? They beat Missouri 23-14 and then North Carolina 24-14. So
yep.
Very good weekend for Illinois. Kevin, what were your thoughts on Illinois?
This whole season they've looked awesome. Like they've looked, how something is like advertised as like, oh, this is going to be great, and then you experience it and it's maybe an 8 out of 10 of what you expected. Like they've been a 10 out of 10 so far this season. They've had some areas where they've struggled, but I think they've had other areas where they've excelled, right? And they still haven't even had their full lineup in yet. So I'm going to be really excited to see what they're able to do when Edmund Ruth kind of gets back on track. I think he must just be adjusting to 184 versus 174. Like
Maybe.
That's because I haven't seen him be taken down this easily at all last year or even the year before that, for that matter. Because he's struggling a little bit. But no, I mean, they've looked great. Jason Kreiser at 157 has been excellent for him. Bronigal, I mean, he had the loss against Sinclair of Missouri, but other than that, has looked really good this year. So yeah, I'm super impressed with them, and I think that they can even improve. I don't think they've wrestled their best duel yet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I mean, they were also one of the teams that we had circled coming in and said they're going to be very good. They have a lot of guys that are returning to their lineup after red shirts and injuries and stuff like that. And they're showing that they are, right? They are definitely flexing on basically everybody that they wrestle right now. And their guys look good. The only thing, like you said, Edmund Ruth, it's weird to see him not be as offensive or to be taken down at will. Basically, I mean, another loss by him. He just continues to slide in the rankings. So I think you're probably right where it is an adjustment to the new weight class. But man, I hopefully he can adjust a little bit quicker. Maybe he's just undersized too.
Don't sleep on Gavin Kane though. He's an All-American.
No, certainly not. I'm just saying it's more so the amount of losses that we're seeing and how it's just very uncharacteristic, right? I put Edmund Ruth and TJ Stewart in the same boat right now where it's very uncharacteristic how they're wrestling.
I don't want to say it's even in the losses though for Ruth. Like he hasn't looked good even in his wins. Like we talked about it, before the season started, they wanted to get his offense going a little bit more. And clearly his offense is not, if anything, it's decreased, I feel like. And he's being taken down at a higher rate. So that's a bad combination. It tells me that he's adjusting to the weight. And, that's a big weight adjustment, 74 to 84, just in the size and the physicality of those matches.
Especially because most of those guys are probably coming down from like 200, 205.
Right. Well, and then what was the I'm sorry, Robbie, the 197 for UNC that was a heavyweight last year that dropped down loud?
Yeah, Cade
Loud, yeah.
Lout.
Yeah, Cade Loud. Yeah. That dude was massive. He was enormous.
He's not small.
He's
Wait
not
till
That
you
was
see
the
his
small.
only point
father.
I had on that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nobody in his family is small. I had a chance.
That whole family they're very large human beings.
Yeah, I
They
saw
know where the weight room
his
is.
his dad at one of the duels. It wasn't the baseball duel, but it was like another duel that I had gone to at UNC a couple years back, and his brother was in the lineup at UNC at that point.
Mhm.
But I saw all three of them together, and I'm like, that is a massive family. Like they are just big human beings. So yeah, it's surprising that he's at 197, especially after being up at heavyweight, because they all have the frame to just be these massive like man child type people.
Well, I think
Mhm.
that can almost double up on the Ruth point, right? Because Bronigal is used to dealing with guys that big, previously. He's been at 97 for the last couple years. If you include the Olympic year last year and just, wrestling big Greco guys that whole time. Um, so he's clearly used to bumping up the weight class. He probably, should have done it a couple years before anyway. So, maybe that's just the adjustment for Ruth. But in general, they look good. I think you're right, Ryan. We were right again. We did say this before anyone else.
Damn it, we did it again. No, like I said, I was impressed by Gavin Kane as well. Like seeing how well he's wrestled, and
It was nice to see him finish a match really strong because that's kind of
yeah.
been a tougher area for him is, kind of fading towards the end of matches. And he finished that match really, really well.
Yeah, he's one of Fretwell's guys, and
Mhm.
I can remember Fretwell when we were at that duel on the baseball field, talking about like how great his defense is. I mean, he did end up losing that match that day, but he talked about how like if he can really put it together between offense and defense, he could be really hard to score on, and he could be really dynamic on his feet. And I feel like another year in the room, especially with new coaching and new styles and things like that. And now probably working with big ass Cade Lout, it's probably starting to come together for him. Let's move to the
That loss was
IWA
to
and the
find
Ivy then.
silver at that duel.
What's
So, I mean,
that?
let's not, that loss of that ballpark duel was to find silver. So it's
Yeah,
not a
exactly.
bad loss.
Not a bad one whatsoever. Austin, I want to get you in here, talk a little Ivy, little penny loafers and ascots in the Ivy and the EIWA. How have things been going for the smart guys as you rock your Harvard quarter zip?
Good plug there. I was
Have
at
it.
Keystone Classic on Sunday. I was actually excited because, Virginia Tech, we talked about them before, really good team. Kind of pulled out a lot of their starters last minute after that duel with Rutgers on Friday. So the field wasn't as good, obviously, with those guys in it, wasn't as deep. But Penn had three champs, and I really liked that Jude Swisher at 157. Took out Johnny Lovett, sorry, Clonch at 157 in the finals there. Um, he's looking good, and Penn had two guys out as well with stomach bug came up the night before. So Incontrera did not wrestle. Cross Wazlewski at 49 did not wrestle, and I think Penn took fourth in the team race because you were missing scoring from two weight classes, which they would have had finalists or champs there. But yeah, everything was good there. Cornell had their big red invite. Again, a lot of starters kind of missing matches there, but some younger guys were in. We saw Simon Ruiz have a nice win over Brevin Casella, Binghamton. So good win for Ruiz as a freshman. And I thought Columbia looked really good against Indiana as well.
They
Um,
did.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think they're starting to come around, and Donnie P has been there for what 3 months now, maybe four, and that team's starting to come around. And there are still some good guys redshirting, and they had a mass exodus with guys graduating, losing eligibility. Um, ACC stole a lot of those guys, but that's neither here nor
Appreciate
there.
it.
Yeah. We just talked about one of them earlier.
Yeah, yeah. So you're welcome, Robbie. But yeah, I think Columbia's looking good. Brown hasn't really competed yet. Hard to see where they're at with Coach Lean. But yeah, I'm excited for the Ivy Leagues, and I think they're going to have a good season overall. And I think they're just going to keep getting better at this rate.
Did I see Brown just had another coaching addition too? A guy, somebody came back, right? Was it
Yeah,
Delgado?
Yeah,
Jesse
Jesse
Delgado.
Delgado.
Yep. Yeah, because Kemper left to go to
Mhm.
Minnesota, so they needed a spot to fill. And yeah, Delgado was there. I think he was hanging in the area with just working real life stuff, and I think now he's back on. Obviously, a good workout partner for the lightweights. Doesn't get much better than that. So yeah, it's good to have him back.
That is for sure. I always remember his matches with Nashon Garrett. It was like two cats fighting in an alley. Those matches were scrappy, man.
That comes across my timeline every now and then, and I'm amazed at the way Delgado was able to scramble out of like blast doubles in the chest. He's like falling backwards, but grabs an ankle and rolls. Like it's unbelievable the way he was able to pull some of that off.
Yeah, those
It
matches
was
were
completely wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
so fast. Water bugs.
those matches were wild. But yeah, I mean, you talked about Columbia 2 point loss to Indiana already making strides, right? And this is kind of reminiscent of what we said about UVU with their new coaching staff, you know,
Mhm.
and Donnie Pritzoff, you knew he was going to make a big impact. The impact that he made at Rutgers was evident, and you're already seeing the big impact that he's making on his new squad now that he's like truly running the show. Goodell even said it was time for him to be a head coach, and him and Seabass have these guys probably working extremely hard, and not to say that they didn't work hard before, but when you bring in a brand new Olympian and a guy that coached him, at Rutgers, I think you're gonna have a pretty good recipe for disaster for other teams. And not to say that Indiana is Penn State, but a couple of years ago, even last year, this isn't a 23-21 dual meet.
No.
It's a lot more to a lot little when you look at this. So I love seeing what's happening with Columbia. Those guys are coming along. I think once you get to later on in the season, you'll have kind of the same thing that we had with Wolak last year, right? Where they're like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" Right? And now Wolak is in a Virginia Tech singlet, and he's what, fourth in the country right now. I think you'll have a lot of the same type of people noticing, the other, and I say Carolina blue singlet coming from
This
Columbia.
is Columbia Blue.
Is it Columbia blue? Is that what
That's what I'm gonna go
we're gonna
with.
call it?
That's
Still
what I'm gonna go
still
with.
hard to mess up that color scheme
Still
though.
hard to mess up
Yeah.
that color
Yeah,
scheme.
I like it.
Still hard to do it. But no, I think it's awesome. It's really, really good what they're doing.
I
Unfortunately,
liked
go ahead.
real quick just comment on that. Like it was interesting having seen them recently wrestle Michigan and then have the contrast and kind of, and I know not all dual meets are created equally, right? The scores can be a little bit misleading, but still having seen them wrestle Michigan recently and then with Indiana, I was very impressed with how they did.
Yeah, agreed. Um, Austin, you mentioned Cornell as well, and a new coaching staff that wasn't on the nice receiving end of things is Buffalo, as they got shut out by Cornell. Is this going to be the Cornell lineup that we see throughout the year, or will they continue to shake things up, move guys around? Is this what we're going to inevitably see? I mean, obviously, there's obviously a glaring starter that was not in the lineup for this duel, um, with Shapiro. But besides that, is this the lineup that we're gonna see from Cornell?
Well, yeah, I mean Shapiro out with his we'll call it rumored concussions. I'm not sure if that's confirmed, but that's the talk of what he hit his head a few weeks ago. So who knows how long that's out? He's been having some issues there.
Mhm.
What's his name at 65? Ramirez didn't wrestle. Foca was out at 84. So a lot of starters haven't really hit the mat yet. Maybe those guys are second semester coming in with limited eligibility, or they're just not really kind of maybe on pitch counts being older guys there. But yeah, I think Cornell, they'll be all right. They always kind of have these phases where they're not looking too hot, and they come around by March and they'll win a team trophy or something again, So I think they'll be all right. A lot of youth in that program, in that lineup too, with, like I mentioned, Ruiz at 74, Delegata at 97. They expect big things out of those guys. I haven't seen Cornella this year yet at 41, but Saunders doing a hell of a job filling in there. And, maybe he is the guy. I don't know that yet. So I think they're still figuring some of those things out. But, Cornell obviously top of the Ivy League, but these guys are, Penn, Columbia, Princeton, all kind of making gains there a little bit too.
Cornell's got great hair.
Who's that?
Cornell's got great hair.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
Continues when they leave too.
It never goes away.
Speaking of guys that have left Cornell, and I'm looking at Yanni and Vito right now. Those guys are kind of beat up. You see, they're both have had surgery. I mean, obviously Yanni had surgery a while back. He has a brace on his shoulder right now, and Vito's arm is in a sling. Had his first surgery. Like, man, there's a lot of beat up guys in that Cornell lineup right now. I mean, Shapiro, Foca. Who's to know? I mean, maybe they got to start drinking a little bit more milk up there.
Does body good.
Get them veggies in.
Something in the water up here making everyone weak, maybe.
I tell you where milk's not helping is Wisconsin. What the hell is going on,
man,
at Wisconsin?
There's a lot of people asking that same question, is what is going on. I mean, they open up the season with a loss to Ohio, and then they lose to Rider just this past weekend.
They got spanked by Rider though. They didn't just lose.
Yeah,
they got handled.
Yeah, it's not pretty in Wisconsin, and obviously they're missing guys, but it wouldn't have made that big of a difference, I don't think. Right? Like, you're missing two guys. Those two guys could have maxed out at 12 points. But the rest of your lineup is still very young, still very green, not looking the best. Like, you need something needs to change. Something for sure needs to change. And I'll never say that Bono and Reeder don't work their guys hard, right? Like, hell, it's a fight to get out of a hug with Reeder. You got to know that he's beating those guys up during a practice. But something, I mean, you can't just equate it to being young, because there's other lineups that are also young, and they just don't look like they're developing, or it just doesn't look good right now early on in the season for Wisconsin. Call it what it is. Yeah.
And you would expect, a Big Ten program to have enough depth to be able to put, a decent body out there against, a mid to lower tier MAC team. And that wasn't the case. And that's their second kind of head scratching loss they've had this year. Something, I mean, there's something certainly going on and needs to be looked at.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's not great.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
To say the least, it is not great. All right, let's move to Minnesota. Gable looks enormous.
You betcha.
Gable looks enormous. Piles tweeted that he weighed in at 277 this weekend. 277, folks.
Woo.
He's large. And I mean, if you think about it, it may have just been training camp, but he was in an NFL locker room for a good amount of time. He's had some time off as well, where he's doing nothing but training, lifting, and eating. Like, he's going to get big, but like, he's fast too. Like, it's wild what football drills did to him, because in that line of work, you have to have fast feet, and you got to be really big. And I think what he is showing is that he's got fast feet and he's really big. And he needed a minute 50 to win 18-3 in the first match. And then he put it on Tay Gadali, and it was just, it wasn't pretty. And Robbie, I appreciate you backing me up when I tweeted back at Coach Sentes when he said, I got to make sure you guys have time to see your guy. We check in on Tay every week. Every week we are on Gadali watch. Make sure that we check in with him. So it wasn't just because he was wrestling Gable. Even though, love Gable, but we've been
watching. It was the shortest match of the year though. So there's
been watching for Tay Diesel since last year.
Mm-hmm.
So yes. But no, I mean, it's impressive. It really is. It really is, because remember when we said at the beginning of the year, and I think we even said it like 2 weeks, maybe a week ago or something like that, that like gone are the days of the big heavyweights that don't move well and don't score a lot of points. Gable's like, yeah, I'm going to be big and I'm going to do all that, right? Like everything that he does, I'm going to do too. And I'm massive while I do it. It's just crazy.
It's amazing he didn't lose a step at all.
No.
Like
Yeah.
you don't do that, to a guy like Tay by accident, right? We just saw him, dismantle Feldman. So, I mean, we came off of last week singing his praises about how great he is, and it's going to be interesting to see this match. It was not very interesting for very long, So, but hey, credit to Gable. I'm excited to see him back. I mean, this doesn't look like the version that we were afraid of seeing. You know what I mean? The version that looked like he was just trying to get through this one last year of eligibility before he moved on to something else. That didn't look like that at all. So he looked like he had fun and wanted to make a statement, and the statement was very much made.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks motivated for sure.
Yeah, you would
I think
you
we're
would
all
expect
kind of
you would expect to
Go ahead.
see some rust, maybe, not being on the mat for a few years. And I tweeted out something like it's amazing he just came back and teched an All-American like it was nothing. And this one idiot was like, "Oh, I'm not surprised. He's so much better." But it's like, dude, he hasn't been on the mat in 2 years. Like, you don't just tech fall All-American, especially at heavyweight. It's just insane
Yeah.
to
There
me.
was no ropes to even bounce off of. So
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, he might have been training, but he was also doing WWE. He was NFL. He wasn't wrestling,
Yeah.
Gadiali was, or any of these other heavyweights, and just to come back in, like, hey, this is still me. I'm the man here. Everyone else out of the way. It's like he's a freak athlete, man. It's insane.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say that the the shitty takes about Gable being back, they spiked over the
Hmm.
weekend with the clips and stuff,
Yeah,
where it was, let the younger guys have a chance, and it's just like, listen, I'm gonna tell you like this. If I had the chance tomorrow to go and wrestle and feel really good while competing, there's not a young guy out there that I'm giving a chance to. And I'm
my hip
37.
hurts thinking about that. Just
especially when he's
saying.
making money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He ain't doing it for free. We know that we
exactly.
don't know what he's making, but I'm sure it's good money.
Exactly. Like you're gonna tell
Probably
me
more than $10.
you're gonna pass up that chance and be like, you know what? No, I've won an Olympic medal, I've won this and I've won that. I don't want to win anymore. No, true competitors want to win everything all the time. And he had a chance to win again. He's like, you're trying to tell me that I can go back and I can use an Olympic red shirt and continue to win and win another medal and make money while doing it. He even said during his opening presser, that, you know, the first year of NIL was his like his last year in the lineup. So like that was
Mhm.
the first time that people could be paid, and the dollars and cents were not adding up the way the dollars and cents are adding up now. So it's very different. And I can't find any sort of hate for him coming back. I don't care. But like the shitty takes of him, if he should give a younger guy a chance or this or that, like, you
That's
realize that
stupid.
everybody's complicit in this. Like Coach Agam wanted him back in the lineup. Those wrestlers wanted him back in the lineup. The school wanted him back in the lineup. Like you're gonna tell this grown man who has a chance to compete not to compete because there's younger guys that are coming up? No. There's older guys that get recruited over every single day for younger guys. He can still do this at a high level. He's going to do it. So I'm sorry that Gable's hard work has upset you all, but that's just what it is, and you're gonna have to deal with it because he's gonna be here for this season. You have another couple of months of watching Gable, and then you can change your take when he's wrestling for the United States again, and he is winning more medals. Then you can be like, "Hey, we love you now. We're not upset with you anymore," and completely do the whole flip flop thing that you guys love to do when he's wearing a opposing singlet for a school you don't like, as opposed to the singlet of the United States of America. It's trash. Be a
Yeah.
fan of
You
the
don't
person no matter what.
You don't let the young guys do it when it's the Olympics, unless you're the young guy, in Gable's instance. Um, but no, it's great that he's back. He looks amazing. It is what it is, and more important than money, he's making memories. All right, let's not take that away from the young man. Let's allow him a
It's the
chance to go
memories we
back to
make along
school.
the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, well, I shouldn't say we, but I saw the Rodney Dangerfield movie Back to School. That looked awesome. Who wouldn't want that?
For all you kids,
So good for him.
that's
Did not
Billy
expect
Madison.
Rodney Dangerfield reference tonight.
That's
That was
Billy
not on my
Madison for
card.
the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I mean, on top of all that, Gable is making Minnesota a better team as well.
I was just
And
going to say that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
we talked about it before. Like their entire lineup is nothing but ranked guys. For the first time since 1997, they had back-to-back shutout wins. And granted, it's not against high-powered Big Ten teams, but there's been over those years been times where they wrestled teams that were of the same caliber as the teams that they wrestled, and they did not shut them out. So they're making history again. And these guys, you can't tell me that these guys aren't motivated by being in the same room with an Olympic gold medalist. If that wasn't the case, then people wouldn't go to Penn State, they wouldn't go to Iowa, and they wouldn't go to Oklahoma State if they didn't like being around an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. But no, Minnesota looked great overall, and Gable looked awesome as well. What are your guys' thoughts on how his impact has really hit this entire Minnesota wrestling room?
I mean, I think the team was awesome before he got there. I'm sure they kind of knew what was going on ahead of time, and maybe that overlap, just was showing already. But you saw the confidence in those guys immediately, getting upset wins and just being good top to bottom again. And then when you just have trust that a guy can beat anybody on any day, which I'm sure those guys all do, then it's just that much more exciting for the culture to build up and for that atmosphere to build up and for that fan base to be excited for every single duel. So, it snowballs, which is fitting for Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably, I haven't been in this situation where I was on a trophy team, but their odds of becoming a trophy team are exponentially more now. So, do you think that's got to be a motivation for every single guy, not just starter, every single guy in that room saying, hey, I want a trophy for this team. We have the capability to do it, especially now. How am I going to contribute to that in March? I think that goes a long way. Just being the leader on the mat kind of carries to off the mat stuff.
well, I mean, you see how they moved up in all the tournament rankings as soon as he was back in the lineup, and it shows you the impact that he has just point total wise. And it's going to be a dogfight for 2, 3, and 4 this year, and there's they certainly inserted themselves in that conversation with us.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at their schedule because the match I want to see even more so now is when do they wrestle Iowa, if at all. They do.
That is one of the weird things where you have to look at the Big Ten schedule and wonder if teams are going to compete against each other. I hate that.
They do, and it's
Makes sense why,
it's on Valentine's Day, and
It's my birthday.
it is.
Oh, there you go.
You were a lover boy. And it is, and it's in Minnesota too. So, I mean, a part of me wishes that it was in Carver Hawkeye. What's that?
So they can draw hearts in the snow.
Yeah, I mean, a part of me wishes that
Adorable.
it was in Carver though, because putting Gable in Carver would probably be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's from what it looks like the last duel of the year, their last Big Ten duel of the year before Big Tens.
He's
Nice.
going to have a tough back half of the season. He's got Heinzelman, who's supposed to be in second semester from Michigan, Slavakuski, Feldman, and Keeter. So he's going to have a run before the tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can handle, back-to-back weeks if there's any rust that is still there.
Yeah, that is for sure. Yeah, it's Minnesota's last duel of the year. However, it's not Iowa's last duel of the year. Iowa's last duel of the year is Oklahoma State, which should be fun, which is
Fire.
in
That's
Carver.
gonna be sweet.
That's in Carver. So that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, that I think Minnesota versus Iowa. Give me Iowa or give me Minnesota in an upset right now. That's who I'm picking. I think they can. I think they
I
can
like
pull
that.
that one off. Honestly, just I mean, based on how they look right now and how they match up, it's very possible. I mean, that match at 33 is going to be amazing. Not to look too
That
far down
is.
the road, 33 is going to be awesome. Wells versus Ayala is going to be absolute fireworks, right? Like that's going to be some shit. So I don't know. I mean, obviously the heavyweight match is going to be good too, but like I think overall, top to bottom, that one's going to be a really good dual meet.
There's a lot of good
And-
matchups in that duel, actually.
Tons.
And
That's what happens when all of your guys are ranked.
Weird.
and
Yeah.
with
Weird how
and
that
with
works.
and with Teamer's potential injury, you don't know how bad that is if he's out for the year.
Yeah, man.
You know,
I hope he's
that
good.
definitely changes that
That was-
around.
Yeah,
That was a
that was
bummer.
something else I wanted to get to. As you know, we can talk CyHawk, and Iowa ends up taking that one. I think it was the 20th one in a row that they beat Iowa State, but Teamer getting injured, and he went to Iowa for one reason and one reason only.
I think
Well,
there was more than one reason.
maybe two reasons.
Several reasons.
Several 100,000 reasons.
several
Yeah.
green reasons. But do you think he says, I mean, if the injury is that bad, and from what I heard, he got an MRI on Monday, and if it was torn, he was going to get surgery or whatever else. I don't know the extent of if he was able to if he got surgery or whatever else. But I did hear he did get an MRI, or got an MRI, I think maybe like right after the duel, actually. If it was torn, he was getting surgery on Monday. So I don't know. I haven't heard one way or the other on that. Anyway,
Was it knee or was it hamstring?
I think it's hamstring. Yeah, I think it's hamstring. But do you think he goes with a medical and then tries to come back next year? Because if it's bad enough, I mean, he's within that time frame. He says,
Yeah, he's within the time frame of turning 30 if he does that too.
I can't. I mean, think about that though. He's injured. He literally could be out until they wrestle Minnesota in February. I mean, realistically, February could be when he can make his return. It's not gonna be in January. He probably won't be there for the Penn State duel. If he's there for Penn State on January 31st, I'll be very surprised. I think at most he's back February 7th when they wrestle Nebraska, possibly.
It's going to
for
be
Intro Taylor.
It's going to be really hard for me to be like, no, you have, you can't come back. You can't take a medical redshirt after the conversation we just had, right? So if the guy wants to take it and come back. If it's that bad, I don't know if Teamer would want to do that or what his plans would be, but I don't know. If the guy wants to come back and give it another shot.
I'm more worried about the Iowa accountant if that's the case.
Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah,
Maybe
I was
for
gonna.
payments?
Yeah, I was gonna say. If he
Are there stipulations in these? Is
if he
there
signs a
like
1-year deal and
match
gets hurt,
minimum?
You can't. It like NIL is not. It's not incentivized by. It's not pay for play.
Incentivized. It's not supposed to be.
But that's the thing is, if say they're like, okay, well, you got injured, and you are now going to take a medical, and you're going to be out until next year, and you're going to come back. We're not going to pay you until next year. That's a breach of contract because they're paying him this NIL deal for the 2024-2025 season.
To use his likeness, not because of his athletic ability, or not for his athletic
exactly
accolades.
So he gets injured and says, I'm going to take a medical and I'll be back next year. And then they're like, okay, well then we don't want to pay you next year. And then he's like, oh, really? Because what we have in place says that I get this amount for this year. And if you don't, you owe me this money. And this, I mean, who's to say that can't happen? We just saw it with the UNLV football player, the quarterback that was like, hey, I was supposed to get this, and this NIL deal was a verbal agreement, and you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. He's now hurt. he wants to be healthy to go win a title. He says, I don't want to come back. Or the doctor says you can't come back. What are they going to do?
Well, and that's the tough part. I mean, I think the main thing is that obviously I assume the guy wants to compete this year first and foremost, right? And to
Yes.
go do what he showed up there to do. You know, I'm sure you don't want to sit out. You don't want to take the year off. You don't want to try to get into the weeds with all that stuff. At least I wouldn't if I was in his position. I'd want to just try to, hey, what do the doctors say? What's realistic?
Depends on what the money looks like.
Yeah.
You
What
say,
are the
does the
implications
value
around all
go
this?
down?
I'm sure there's conversations being had around it. You got to figure that stuff out. It's logistics. That's what project managers do.
Yeah, you find out what Austin does for the first time, and now you feel like you want to use it.
Like
Gotta
the third
talk
time
about
you
it.
use that now. Yeah.
At
Good.
least, yeah.
Oh man. Sticking in the Big Ten, the last team I want to talk about is the team that's at the top of the heap, and that's Penn State. And I wrote it in our recap. They really are flexing their depth at this point. And obviously they always have tremendous depth every single year. But this weekend it was just like, yeah, we're gonna throw a bunch of guys, including our starters, into this tournament, and we're gonna come away with first, second, third, fourth, every single placement in this tournament that you can imaginably think of. But obviously the two bouts were 57 and 97. And it came out that Kasich and Facundo had wrestled, and Facundo won that match. And now we're seeing the public wrestle off, and it's just like Kasich wins. So what do you think they do? What do you think they should do? In my opinion, I think Kasich should redshirt and Facundo should wrestle. What do you guys think?
And he redshirt.
Yeah, he was a true freshman last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, but if he wrestles attached, he loses that capability. That's only for true freshmen. Or did they change that this year? Because once he puts on a Penn State singlet, isn't he attached? And
they can wrestle. I think everyone can wrestle in a Penn State singlet. I don't think the singlet has anything to do with it anymore. But I don't know if he wrestled attached or not. It doesn't designate any of it in any of the results that I saw.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I think it's still on the table for him to not wrestle this year and come back next year with the same amount of eligibility and Facundo take that spot. I think. I don't have a plan or anything, but I think.
Should work on that. It has to designate it pretty clearly on the brackets if he's unattached. I mean, that was a big thing with Treffin being able to transfer, is that anything he's doing this semester is unattached.
Mm-hmm.
So be interesting to look back through those brackets. Yeah. I mean, that's the option. I mean, if they're both there this year, there's a realistic chance that one of them is going to leave next year. We haven't really seen that a lot from Penn State, but if you have this multi-year lineup crunch that you're going to have with those two, there's a possibility that one of them's going to go. So why not make the most of that? Redshirt Kasich this year, let Facundo go and see what happens, and then you get to reevaluate after next year. But when you have the depth that they have and the amount of talent they have in that room, that's a problem that's going to happen, and that's just so hard to deal with. Sorry.
Well, that's the wild thing, though. This is not the first time they've had depth like this, where they've had this happen. I mean, remember Mason Manville in high school versus Mason Manville in college? Like, that guy never got in the lineup, and he was there the whole time.
Yeah.
He still has eligibility left, by the way.
He should come back. Bring him all back.
Not even joking.
No, I feel like I did hear that the other. I don't remember when, but yeah, I feel like I knew that for some reason, probably from you. but that's the point. I mean, Joe Lee is another guy, right? Joe Lee as a freshman was in the lineup at 165, was ranked top 15, top 10 maybe at one point. Never got back in the lineup after that. So it's not like after this season it's going to be any easier to get past who they have at 65 and now 74 and to fight for that 57 spot. So, but my point is, like, I don't see anybody necessarily leaving. Don't you think they would have done that by now? I mean, everybody kind of had these weird projections about how jumbled it was going to be before the year.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is like, was it suspected that Levi Haynes would move up, or that he would stay down at 57? Right? Like, obviously no one is privy to those conversations. At least no one in this room right now is privy to those conversations that are happening at Penn State. But like,
Hale consults me about everything. I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, I mean, he told us in that press conference, if he had it figured out, he probably still wouldn't tell us. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think I I will put my money on Facundo leaving in like next year. Um, and Oklahoma State is where I think he would end up. Just saying,
I,
because
I like that.
if anything, I mean, there's familiarity there with David Taylor, and then on top of that, I think, what is it, 65 will probably be open for them next year. But man, this is where I'm being a bit of a hypocrite, where I want the young guy to get his chance here, and not so much the young guy, but like, I want to see Facundo in the lineup again. He was there once. He was able to make it to the NCAA tournament, didn't place. Kasich certainly did that last year and was a huge part of why they broke that record. I feel like Kasich having a year on the shelf to just wrestle, get stronger, get bigger, he potentially comes back at 65 next year, or maybe even 57, right? But like, I think that there may be another move next year where Levi Haynes is up at 84, Messenbrink is up at 74, and Kasich comes in at 65. That's my thought of what can potentially happen next year. I know we're just starting this year out, but like, with that jumble of a lineup, it's tough to see if this is how the results are looking. It's tough to see how Facundo fits into it.
But you could say the same jumbles going on at the upper weights, because next year you're going to have Josh Barr trying to drop down to 84 because he's not a natural 97. You're going to have the Mirasola twins in there then trying to battle it out up there. So this is the trouble with Penn State, right? It's just really excellent wrestlers trying to compete for that white belt, right? No sail belts on this one.
Yeah.
You know that they have a guy named Carl Schindeldecker? That's a really cool name.
That is a cool name.
Never heard of him before, but he's
Carl.
on the
Carl
he
is a
was
great
3-6
name.
2 years ago.
I actually
Yeah,
have heard
I
the
was
name.
leaning more towards Schindeldecker being a cool name, but Carl's
I
good
guess
too.
they're both pretty good, I guess.
I mean, you brought up Barr at 97. I mean, even though he's not a full 97, from what you say, Kevin, could have fooled me. He
He
beat the
wrestles
hell
like
out.
it.
He beat the hell out
He's
of his
not a small
teammates this
guy.
weekend. That's for damn sure.
Yes, he
Giving up
did.
1 point in the set between the semis and finals when you wrestle your teammates and winning the tournament, like, he's the other guy that we thought we would see at 97, and we didn't see him until this past weekend. And now we're like, okay, well, you beat Cochran, you beat Marisola. What's the deal, right? Like, and that's the Marisola that was the first and only person in these here United States that was able to take down Aaron Brooks last year. So like, man, that's if Josh Barr is on that level.
Yeah, I didn't say Josh Barr wasn't a good wrestler.
No, for sure, but like, I'm saying if
don't get it
he's
twisted.
yeah, for sure not.
He's real good.
But like, these guys are, who knows? I mean, they could all be bigger than him, but it's not showing, right? Like, it is
Right.
certainly not showing, from room to being on the mat. I expected to see him start the season, and like I said, we hadn't seen him until now. Do you guys put Josh Barr in at 97, or do you stick with Cochran? Because I mean, I don't know the logistics behind why Cochran started and why Barr didn't, but like, if this is any indicator of who should start, I mean, shit, it's Josh Barr completely.
That's the guy. That's who you got to start. Just
Yeah, I mean,
unbiased.
until proven otherwise, I think that's where you go.
Yeah, it wasn't a one score takedown or 1 point overtime match. It was a major decision. It's
Against both of them.
yeah. So
and
it
in the
tells
way
me
that you
he's
want
way
your
above
guy to
those
do it.
guys. Yeah. He tells me he's way above those guys, which you got to be really freaking good to be a major decision better than those two.
Mhm.
What's crazy, looking at Cochran's profile, he had 2 wins at 285 last year. One of them was an 8-3 win over Slavakuski.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wild. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like we talked last week, Barraclaw kind of set that action in motion of being, the quote unquote backup at Penn State and then going, and he's the top 5, top 6 guy now at another school. So, yeah, I
It looks
think,
fantastic and is the face of the program.
yeah.
Well,
So like, why wouldn't anyone else want to do that and kind of follow in those footsteps? You work
Well,
so hard, you train your ass off to be the backup. It doesn't make any damn sense.
you also had
Especially with the
Seth
NIL
Neville.
money available.
Seth
Yeah.
Neville took a long time to transfer.
Yeah.
And now he's top 15, top 20 ranked guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the log jam that you get when it's say it this way, but when you are the best, you are the
Yeah.
best team. Everyone wants to train with the best team. It's just, I mean, you saw it on the freestyle side. Dake, Snyder, all of them left where they were, said, I'm going to State College. That's what's going to get me better. And so, I don't fault any of these guys for doing any of that, but like, man, you spend all this time in the room to be a practice room guy when you can be a guy that is winning trophies. And I said it before, Donovan Ball. Donovan Ball was and has continued to be Aaron Brooks' guy since he got there. I think he could have certainly been in that Rutgers lineup, right? He could have been a guy like that to go to Rutgers, and he's a PA guy, but then not that far. Go to Rutgers, go to one of these schools and do well.
It's funny. I heard recently a conversation around NFL quarterbacks and around how a lot of the guys that we look at now and are like really high on transferred in college, and how it's a completely different viewed thing now. And maybe wrestling's just behind in that, where it's still looked at as a little
Whoa,
little
wrestling's
weird.
behind in something?
I know,
Oh.
weird, right? Let's get ahead of it like we usually do. But I mean that's the thing.
Get
I
on
mean,
the forefront of innovation.
Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. I mean, those are just off the top of my head guys who transferred schools. I think really of the only like major guys from college, Drake May I think might be one of the only ones who didn't transfer. And you can go back to Baker Mayfield. There's numerous examples, right? So sometimes you just need your opportunity.
Exactly. Speaking of opportunity, I want to go back to the Iowa duel to close things out. There was a fast car in the Iowa lineup, and not the one we ever expected to be in the lineup before, the first one to be in the lineup. And that was that was Angelo Ferrari, and he looked damn good, guys. Like he looked really, really good. He did. And this is another thing that I wrote about. The CyHawk duel was it was basically a duplicate of last year. Drake Ayala came off a win to beat a guy that was higher ranked than him in the CyHawk duel then. Another freshman who we aren't sure if he's going to redshirt or not came out at 84 and beat a ranked guy, right? So like there's been, and then on top of that, Patrick Kennedy lighting up the scoreboard. Last year it was 14-13. This year he's getting a tech, right? So it's like all these same things happen, but like the most impressive thing was definitely Ferrari coming out and being a very composed freshman. He did a Ferrari thing and showboated a little bit. It wasn't a double bird split, but saw a little showboat.
Bar's pretty high though.
But he looked good. He certainly looked good doing it. What'd you guys make of that decision after last year where it was Gabe Arnold in that same position?
If we're talking already about how difficult it is being some of the top programs and all the depth you have to juggle. I mean, it's it's tough for them, but that's such a damn good team. I remember for whatever reason going into the season kind of being a little concerned about what it was going to look like, what the culture was going to be, how that was going to impact or show itself on the mat, because you had so many guys transfer out. There was a lot of NIL stuff going on. They just seemed like it was going to be weird, and none of that has impacted them at all. The wrestling is astounding. They look sharp. Everybody who gets their opportunity is ready to capitalize on it. It's been very, very impressive. So, however they're balancing that in the room is working so far.
Mike Caliendo looked pretty good.
He got the upset
Pretty
win.
impressed with him.
Yeah.
It was a
Pulled
close
off,
one.
pulled off the upset. Yeah. No, I think it's all fun and games right now. It's the beginning of the season. The end of the season, who's going to be the guy at 84? Who's going to be the guy at 74? That's the question. Those are the questions that need answers, because we've seen every variation of it. We've seen Brands and Arnold. We've seen Kennedy and Arnold. We've now seen Kennedy and Ferrari. Who's the team that's going to get it done at 74 and 84 for Iowa? And I mean, truth be told, Kennedy and Ferrari have been the highest scoring bunch of the tandems that we've seen there. So who's to say?
I mean, it makes you wonder too, because Gabe Arnold was slotted to be the starter at 84. I mean, like temporary, right? 7th in the country. He was wrestling against Bachman, who's 14th, so Tom Brands must have saw something in Ferrari that says, hey, he's going to go out and he's going to beat the 14th. Right? The match wasn't over yet. This was still a pretty competitive duel, right? And to throw a freshman out there that has never been in Carver Hawkeye, wrestled like that, it says, there's something to Ferrari being here. And I listened to Willie and Bosch this morning, and Willie brought up a good point. This Iowa team is scoring a ton of points. We're not used to really seeing that. It's a little more since Lee and DeSanto, obviously, but after every post-match interview with them is, I got to score more points. They were all robotic. I got to score more points. Now they're actually doing it. They're exciting to watch, and they're putting points on the board, which is pretty untypical of Iowa. Since a few years ago they changed that, but really coming together now, they look really good.
Agreed. Yeah, they're scoring a bunch of points. They really are. And I mentioned Kennedy getting the tech, but it's all around. I mean, Ferrari was what, 9-2.
Yeah,
like
something like that.
Each one of these guys is scoring points. They're putting a bunch of points up on the scoreboard, and they are very fun to watch. It's just who is going to be in the lineup, who's going to be their 125 as well. I mean, they've had some different guys. I mean, they had Joey Cruz in the lineup before, right? So who's going to be there? But I think more eyes are on 84, 74 and 84 to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, the added dimension of it being a Ferrari, and is that going to go quietly if he's not the starter? We don't necessarily expect the same antics from Angelo, as everybody's kind of said. He's the more subdued of the family, but like we've said, there's a pretty high bar set there. So what are we going to get if we end up seeing him not starting after good performances like this? Could be nothing.
Well, I'll tell you this much. No matter who they throw out at 84 against Penn State, it's a guy that was talking some shit about Penn State's 84 over the last couple of years, and there's going to be some fireworks. So throw out Ferrari, throw out Arnold. Don't even care. Just make sure that Carter Sirachi is the one across the mat, because there's going to be some shit, and it's going to be fun.
That's fair.
That is my take. Gentlemen, anything else, or are we ready to close things out? You got any other shout outs or anything else?
Can I squash this thing that Cody sent? So Cody Goodwin, shout out, wrestling reporter, football reporter extraordinaire, sent this tweet to our group chat, and it very much has rubbed me the wrong way.
Okay.
So I want to just squash this now before it becomes, for whatever reason, a point of discussion. The point was brought up, let me pull this up, that the officials are not calling stalling because the lower the rate of stall calls you have, the higher likelihood you will have to officiate in March.
That's stupid.
That's real fucking stupid.
That's a stupid logic.
I've never heard that
Yeah,
before.
so we're going to go ahead and just say no. That's not how this works. Coaches rank officials, the official rankers, rank officials. There's heads of officials for every conference. There's overall heads of officials who view the mechanics and take coaches into consideration with their feedback. There's a lot that goes into that. It's not just names pulled out of a hat. It's not based on a stalling rate. It's there's a system, and generally we get the best officials in March because of that system. So let's not throw bandy about these stupid ass accusations and say that's the reason that stalling calls are lower. So
Stalling.
not true.
It just doesn't seem right. Like it like we get really stupid takes, and I think we've probably made them as well, but like none like
Tons.
nothing like this, where it's like the less stalling calls a ref makes, the more likely he is to be at NCAAs. Why?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, think about, like, I could just name officials and be like, that guy calls stalling all the time, and he's always at NCAAs. He's pretty good, turns out, So yeah, I'm gonna call all bullshit just from my own memory and knowledge of how this has worked.
the funny thing
And logic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the funny thing about the tweet in question is that the end of the tweet says, "This is how it works," as it's like a matter of fact.
Yeah.
This is how it works. Stop it. Just stop it. You don't actually think that. Actually, maybe you do. Maybe you do actually think that, where we're in a world where if you say something with your chest out and you sound confident when you say it, people are like, yeah, that's a damn good point. I'm not one of those people. That's really stupid. That's dumb.
You have to say it in 240 characters or less.
Jesus.
That's real stupid. Done. That's dead. No, that's not how it works. It's not how any of this works.
Any language that I could speak, it would all come out to just being stupid, just dumb, moron.
So, Robbie, I did send that tweet that you referenced to someone I know that is a Division I ref, and he
Was it
said,
Lewis? Because I saw him on Sunday.
no, not him. Someone else I know, but they said they do track those things for each ref, but
Yeah, they track everything they do.
but I don't think that translates to less stall calls means your chances of going to NCAAs are better. But I'll do some digging and get back to you. But yeah, it just seems silly on the face. I don't get it.
I will make two calls tomorrow. In Virginia and in the ACC, we have been blessed with some fantastic officials. One of them, Big Ten official, J.R. Johnson, just moved from by me down to Blacksburg, and Mike McCormick is the head of officials. So I saw him on Sunday. We can have this chat. Let's clear this up. That is a stupid logic. It makes zero sense. Why would you want officials who aren't calling stalling at the highest level in the most, the tournament with the biggest stakes?
When they should be
doesn't
calling
make
stalling.
any damn sense. Yeah, when there's 36,000 people yelling stalling at you, that also has part of it.
Yeah, tons and tons of stupidity. But that's what happens in sports. There's a lot of stupid takes, and I will be completely honest and say that I'm part of that crew where I will have a stupid take from once in a
No,
while.
mine are
but
all good and always correct.
I'll never be that bad though.
I saw one 2 weeks ago about how the Bears were going to win the NFC North this year or something like that, and I don't even know who it was by, but I was like,
I was gonna say, was it Jacob Warner?
This is why I stopped watching ESPN years ago.
Jacob Warner loves his Bears. I love it. I love Jacob.
Oh, it wasn't?
Warner's
Yeah, dude, Warner's so funny.
He's awesome. I
Man,
love
shout
Jacob
out Jacob Warner.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. I love Jacob Warner. But no, gentlemen, I got nothing else. As always, a very good conversation with you fellas. This will be the last show. I shouldn't say that because we're gonna do another show next week. After Thanksgiving. But I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. It is officially the favorite time for heavyweights and the least favorite time for a 125. So let's enjoy some good meals. If you guys are cooking like I am, don't burn anything, and specifically your house down, and enjoy your family. So, gentlemen, as always, I appreciate you and have a happy Turkey Day.
Happy Thanksgiving.